Thank you, President Tuminez. I got it right this time. Wow, and thank you to all of you. I bet you thought I was going to make a Star Wars joke, but we already been there. Look at you. My job, in part, is to look to the future, but I think I'm looking at it right now. So in the winter of 1999, I walked into what would become the single most important class of my college career. After renouncing chemistry as a sophomore, I'd taken the dramatic step of becoming a creative writer. I was now a senior, staring down the inevitable question that haunts every artist as they approach graduation. What now? I'd already worked my way through every creative writing class at the university, from introductory 200 level theory classes all the way to advanced 500 level graduate classes. They let me take those, even though I was an undergraduate. I talked my way in. They taught me about theme and voice and narrative. However, none of them had answered this question. What now? How on earth did I make the transition from bright-eyed aspiring student to confident professional? I suspect some of you have asked yourselves this same question recently, though I hope you settled on an answer. Asking it on graduation day is a little like wondering if you should learn to swim while the boat is already sinking. Regardless, in the winter of 1999, I heard of a new class in the department, a basic 200 level writing class, something that should have been beneath my current writing skill. But there was one difference. This class was being taught by Dave Wolverton, a professional novelist. It provided a chance for me to hear from someone who is living the what now. That class changed my life. Where I'd heard theory from other professors, from Dave, I learned application. Instead of platitudes about finding your voice or experimenting with style, Dave taught me practical things I could do, plot structures, engaging characters. Most importantly, Dave sat me down and outlined an actual plan for me getting published. That summer, I traveled to a convention he advised I attend. I met the man who would become my agent at that convention. A year later, I went to a different conference Dave had also told me to attend, and I used his strategies for meeting and talking to people. I met a newer editor from a place called Tor Books, and that editor went on to buy my novel Elantris. I literally have a career because at the end of my degree, I finally got some good, practical advice. And so today, I'd like to talk to you the same way Dave talked to me. You've heard, I'm sure, a lot of excellent advice on how to be successful and happy going forward. But I suspect a great deal of that advice has been kind of theoretical. Aphorisms like chase your dreams, or try new things. Or maybe even something a little more writerly, like journey before destination. Those of you familiar with my work might recognize that phrase, journey before destination. It's one of the foundational tenets of my life. It's also the title of my speech today, because for many of you, graduation is the destination you've been hunting for years. I began to think about this philosophy, which I certainly did not originate, while I was in my own school. You see, during some of those early years, I found a pernicious voice in the back of my mind, one that was always pushing me to look 3 steps ahead and think how great things would be when I got there. Surely, after I graduated, then life would be grand. But no, then I'd probably need to finish graduate school, and then life could begin. But no, I needed to get published. If you can't read this, the first one is, oh, I wish it were colder. Next one's like, I wish it were warmer. And then he stands there for a moment and he's like, I wish I was happy. It wouldn't stop there though. Even before I ever submitted a book, I felt I would only be a real author if I were able to go full time. So that could be my next goal. And after getting published, well, could I hit the bestseller list? Thinking it over as a youth, I thought that surely once all that happened, then life could begin. Then I could relax and coast for a while. Those who know me might be smiling because relaxing and coasting aren't exactly the things I'm good at doing. And even as a young student, I realized there was a danger in this kind of thinking. There's an instinct in many of us to dream of our next phase of life and assume that will be the one where we can settle down, get it together, and finally be happy. Don't fall into this trap. To combat this, I began telling myself to focus on the trip. I thought of it so often it became a central theme of my most popular work, journey before destination. Yet even saying that to you, I worry it's one of those easy phrases to quote, like a professor telling me to find my voice instead of offering me a roadmap to publication. I promised you some practical advice, things you can do right now to enjoy the journey. So I have 3 bits of advice for you, nuggets of, I hope, practical application. To delve into our first point, let me tell you about my son Oliver. So, I'm the proud father of 3 boys, the youngest of whom is now 10. Back when he was 4, I remember walking up the steps, finding him alone in the kitchen, playing with his cars on the kitchen table. Because he didn't see me, I hovered in the background watching. And there's a certain delight that comes from watching your children play alone, right? Indeed, at least with my rambunctious boys, it's kind of a miracle to happen on one of them who isn't screaming, complaining, or destroying something. Oliver was instead driving his cars through some kinetic sand, lining them all up in rows, then driving to the other side of the table. It was a beautiful moment. Perfect, distilled childhood. So sweet and innocent. So pure for its enjoyment of the simple wonders of life. And then, Oliver got his cars in row, sat back, and in a loud 4-year-old voice said to the completely empty room, "Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video." He wasn't recording or anything. He just watched so many YouTube videos that he thought that was how you ended your playtime. It's a pretty good story, isn't it? It's probably one of my best, at least one of the best I can share in mixed company. Those are the little kids will know. Thing is, there have been dozens of moments like that with my children, and I've forgotten a lot of them. Why do I remember this one? It's because I wrote it down. So, if you're not surprised, my first piece of practical advice is to write. Write down for yourself the bits of your life that bring you joy. The beautiful moments, yes, and the dramatic ones, but more the quirky, unexpected turns that make this current chapter of your life that you're living right now worth rereading. It's no secret that writing an idea down cements it in our minds. Even a quick jotted note, half-heartedly made, can make us 50% more likely to remember something. If you want to avoid the trap of tunnel vision, if you fear that you're focusing on future happiness instead of ensuring current happiness, you need to be active. You need to not be moving so quickly that you stop paying attention to the beauty of the now. And you need to identify those things that bring you joy. I run a writers group that meets every Friday. We meet at my house, and I provide the treats. It's been meeting for like 20 plus years. You saw Dan earlier. He's been in it for most of that time. We submit writing we've done, and then we let everyone offer criticism. 2 central ideas in improving any skill are feedback and self-reflection. You need to identify problems before you can fix them. We all know this. And likely, we've implemented it in various ways. But do we do the same thing for the things that are working in our lives? Do we take the time to identify them so they can be preserved or even better enhanced? In my writing group, we always make sure to acknowledge what is wonderful about a piece, not just what is broken. It's vital that an author learn what people love about their writing so they can nurture those seeds. I advise you to do the same in life. Look for what is working, identify it, build it up, write it down, because joy, like people, is magnified when it is noticed. For point 2, I want to talk a little about work and life balance. I'm known for my productivity, and presumably for my work ethic. The truth is, however, my productivity is less about how much I work and how well I maintain my life. It's due to making certain that I don't burn out. It's hard to be a famous writer if you work yourself so hard, you end up hating writing. Average smart man. Life is demanding, and your jobs will likely consume as much of you as you will let. So, I say again, have a plan. In other words, don't make yourself into a buffet. Instead, have a carefully cultivated menu. Some of you will be heading to demanding careers or graduate programs. Don't let these work you so hard that you burn out on the very things you love. Balance is key. The data is conclusive. Workplace stress is the highest it's ever been, and it's getting worse. The pandemic is certainly part of this, but if it were all, then we'd expect stress to be going down as the pandemic eases. Multiple polls say it's not. If you can't read this one, this is the percentage of the population with severe anxiety, and it's by year. You can't read quite at the bottom, but it ends right before COVID, right? This graph. That's the most recent data I could find. It's kind of scary, isn't it? This next one is talking about age groups and how much stress and their stress level. And if you can see, the top line is Gen Z and millennials, and the bottom line is everybody else, right? You felt this. I think about this with my 3 boys that I told stories about. We are headed toward the most stressful period in our nation's history. I thought a lot about any advice I could give you to counter this. In the end, I landed on something simple. I feel the most important way to have a balance in life is to maintain a good support structure. Healthy, strong relationships with friends and family. In college, I did a side study into psychology and the nature of the human mind. And one of the most remarkable but unsurprising factors that affects human well-being is their connection to others. Indeed, if you want to deal with stress, the American Psychological Association recommends that you maintain a good support structure, the #1 thing you can do. Unfortunately, I have some dire news. In graduating, you here are about to enter one of the most dangerous periods of potential loneliness in your lives. Statistically, graduation from school is the time when people are most likely to lose friends. And worse, it tends to coincide with other factors such as creating isolation or moving to a new area, which exacerbates that. By the numbers, a good percentage of you in this room are about to lose much of your support structure. Even if you and your friends all remain in the same place, you're probably going to start drifting apart. Some of you might have experienced this already in going to college or when getting married or other major life events. Major life changes can be disastrous for that very life, no matter how happy the event. And I hope you're happy today. Don't get me wrong. You should absolutely be happy and proud today. To enjoy the journey fully, though, study after study says introverts and extroverts alike need to be on that journey with other people. So right now, you should be making an active plan. This might seem a simple thing, but just as a missing bolt can collapse an entire bridge, a missing friend can spiral a life. So, my practical bit of advice #2, if you want to stay in touch with your friends, come up with a recurring event where you can see them. As I mentioned earlier, I meet every Friday with my college friends in writing group. We've been meeting in one form or another for almost 25 years now, and partially, it's an excuse for us all to see each other. We started it in college, when we didn't necessarily need that, but every year that it's continued, we grow more and more passionate about the community that it creates for ourselves. Half of us are writing professionals, but the other half of the people that write a group, they're just there because they enjoy it. I strongly recommend that you find something regular that you can do to spend time with the people you love, digital or physical. Don't leave this to chance and fortune. Chance and fortune tend to get dragged into the back alley by procrastination and get mugged for every spare moment they have. If you can't read this comic, I love memes. I don't know if you're expecting memes up here in your graduation, but we've got, happy-go-lucky saying, I'm going to spend time with my friends. We got big buff person with job, and then another big buff person that says job, and then they beat the tar out of the first one. That's gonna happen unless you make a plan. For me, this plan involves writing group. For you, it can be a book club, a dinner night, a recurring Smash Brothers contest, or anything you're mildly interested in. The point of isn't the event, but the people. Get it on the schedule, and don't let it get crowded out by other needs. Take this advice from someone who is arguably among the top in his field in the world. Work can wait. If you don't maintain connections, you will burn yourself out, and then you will end up both miserable and failing professionally because you're miserable. This goes not just for people, but experiences. When I was in college, I thought all I wanted to do was hide in my room and tell stories. But one of my roommates was a nature photographer. If you read Miss Bourne, I named Captain Nemo after him. He begged me to go with him on trips to southern Utah. He needed somebody to carry his equipment. He actually called me his lovely assistant. I would be his pack rat. I'm the type of person who feels like I'm roughing it when I go to a hotel where the room service doesn't run all day. You know, it ends in the evening. But on these trips, there wasn't even any room service at all. There wasn't even a hotel. On one of these trips, one of the very first ones, we went to Little Wild Horse Canyon in southern Utah. I didn't grow up in Utah, so this was my first trip to see a slot canyon, a place so cramped I thought I was back in my college dorm room. Micah, my roommate, warned me that we might have to delay because it had been sprinkling rain. I found this laughable. A little rain? This is Utah, a desert. Why would a little rain matter? And then, on our hike, we encountered a boulder as tall as I am, wedged into the center of a canyon, with enough space you could stoop and walk through. I was baffled. How did a boulder like this get into such tight confines? And then Micah explained. A little rain becomes a powerful flood when compressed in the confines of a slot canyon. Powerful enough to pick up boulders and wedge them 5 feet in the air. A few years later, I'd write a book called The Way of Kings, making use of these powerful rains and cramped spaces as a major world-building feature. The small rains in your life are the things you're going to do right now to make sure that you have a support structure. That is going to be the flood in your life that is going to carry you along all the way through your life, keep you going, and keep you loving this journey so that you don't burn out. I have enormous thanks for that friend who was determined to drag me out of my room, into the sunlight, and away from my computer, so that eventually I had something to write about. These days, I still don't like leaving my computer. My wife can attest to this. But I always schedule and make time for events and people, because if I don't, it won't happen. And we'll all be poorer for that fact. Last point. I know it's been kind of long. I know it's been a long day. I'm sorry. I thought about making my remarks short, but then you guys have seen my novels, right? You weren't expecting something short. But this is the last one. You are all planners. Some of you might not think it, but you're here in this room. It means you're someone who takes thought for what will come. You're capable of spending a great deal of time and effort to improve your future self, and that is commendable. We're here to laud your accomplishment, and I do so. I wonder, though, if you spent your college years feeling a little like I do, like you're in a constant state of transition, that nothing is ever permanent. I worry this sense might persist. Some of you have jobs, but data on these jobs these days indicates that 4 years is a long time to be in any one place. Beyond that, some of you will be heading for graduate or professional degrees. Others are moving to new places, traveling, or doing some kind of other transitional activity. As I said earlier, it's easy to always feel like you're between one goal and next, never arriving. There we go. This one's a joke about Zeno's paradox, which I love. He says you can never get anywhere because to get there, you have to go halfway there. And to get from the space halfway to the end point, you have to go another halfway, and you have to keep getting that so you'll never arrive. So, the English major says, thank you, Zeno, it means I don't have to get up in the morning because motion is elusive. The math majors are saying calculus solved that, but I'm an English major, no calculus for me. I have a friend who put on a few extra pounds recently. Nothing huge, but enough to make her clothing tighter. She was always uncomfortable, but as she explained to me, weight loss was taking longer than she anticipated. And as a fellow who could stand to lose a few pounds, I empathized. I was surprised then when she came to me with a revelation. She had finally decided to buy new clothing and said that had changed her life. Losing weight was harder when she was miserable and felt terrible, and it became easier when she made herself comfortable. She'd avoided this step because it felt like admitting defeat, but in reality, it helped her lose weight. The notion of not deserving to feel good is part of what had held her back. So, last point of practical advice is this. No matter what journey you're on, how transitory or liminal your current state feels, do something small to make it better. I think too many of us suffer bad situations because we know they will be short-term. Indeed, our society tells us too often to just put up with short-term discomfort. Part of believing that the journey is more important than the destination is not actually accepting your current state. You should always be moving and changing. And often, there are small, simple things you can do to improve your life. And I want you to give yourself permission to make them. I am not suggesting extravagant expenses. I'm not saying be hedonistic. Instead, I'm suggesting that if you're going to be working a job short-term, it's still all right to find yourself a comfortable chair. If you cannot change big parts of your state right now, find the little things and improve them. I spent some 8 years not knowing if I'd ever have a career or not. I wrote 13 novels before I sold one. And around books 11 and 12, the journey started to feel very difficult. I know my parents who are here. They're over here somewhere. There they are, my wonderful parents. They were extremely supportive of me during this time, but they did keep calling, kind of concerned. How many books do you write before you have to find something else to do? This was around when Game of Thrones was first taking off as a book series, and editor after editor told me I should write my stories more like that. So imagine the scene. I'm there and like, how do I get published? And they're like, you know that once-in-a-lifetime masterpiece created by an author, top of their game, whose fiction is done extremely different style from your own? Yeah? Just do that. Yeah, that's what they honestly just kept telling me. I wasn't very good at that kind of writing, it turned out. I won't bore you with the details, but as I was finishing my 12th novel, I started to wonder if this was my lot. To be always stretching for professional publication and never reaching it. For a time, that idea terrified me, until I made a decision, something very small, that's very important that changed my life. I decided to write because I loved writing. You're probably laughing at me. Of course you loved writing. You've written 12 novels, Brandon. But I still had to give myself permission to write what I wanted to write, to be the person I wanted to be. I would let myself write those things rather than the things others were telling me to write. And that day I liberated myself. Much like my friend who made the decision to go buy new clothing, I gave myself permission to improve my life in the way I best thought. I sat and I wrote what would become my most famous book, The Way of Kings. A book in which the central idea was loving the journey. Because sometimes we don't have any idea when the destination will arrive. And that, in truth, is life. We're all heading to the same place eventually. That grave could be tomorrow or in decades. And no matter what you think, every part of your life is going to be a transition of some sort. So my challenge to you on this wonderful day is to look and improve your life in some small way. Give yourself permission. When it works, write it down. And try your best to make and keep connections. And doing so, I hope you can truly enjoy this journey. And once you do, see if you can help some of your fellow travelers. If you know any introverted writer types, maybe drag them off to a slot canyon. Just make sure it isn't going to rain at the time. Class of 2023, I salute you. It is time at long last to take your next step. Turn the next page and begin the next chapter of your story. Journey before destination.